And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to the Dice Tower. Today we're taking a look at Enchanters Overlords. Now this isn't the first time I've taken a look at this game. I played Enchanters way back when it was a much smaller game. This is a much bigger version with extra expansions included inside it. There's extra decks and extra cards, but it's still pretty much the same game, just bigger and more grandiose. You never heard of the original game? That's fine. I'll show you how to play right now. At the beginning of the game, players are going to pick a deck per player that you want to use. So let's say I'm playing a 4-player game, I might pick Angels. By the way, if you want to play a shorter game, you can just use the 2s, or if you're playing a 2-player game, you can pick 4 decks and just pick those, the 2s that are in there. So maybe I'll pick the Angels, we'll pick Dragons, let's see what else would be fun. Undead, we'll mix in here, and Barbarians. So we'll mix these 4 decks together, and you're going to make one deck of cards that's going to be used over the course of the game. Over the course of the game, you are going to have an artifact. So here I start with a Fist of Enchanting, and I have no defense and no attack right now because it's not very useful. So it says you don't need an item when you have a fist that will become an artifact of ultimate power. Great. So over the course of the game, I'm going to be changing things. So maybe I'll change this to a Scythe of Enchanting. Cuts down enemies like wheat because it will become an artifact of ultimate power. But this gives me +2 attack. And also when I put it down, the target player will take 3 damage. But maybe later on, I'm going to turn this into the Scythe of Storms. Cuts down enemies like wheat because it makes it rain for weeks on end. You'll notice now that my attack power is going to be 4. And maybe I'll change the side to a buckler, but you'll notice when I do that, I cover up. You're always going to cover up, and this will cover up one of the attacks. So now I have 3 attack. I'm sorry, 3 attack, I'm on the wrong side, and 1 defense here. But then later on, I make it a great sword, which is 4, 5, 6, 7 attack total. And my defense is still only 1. It was blessed by the angels. That's why it makes it rain for weeks on end. And you can keep doing this. Maybe it's a Trap of Storms, or Trap of a Dragon, or Trap of Light, or Scale Armor of Light, or Scale Armor of Poison, or Scale Armor of Holiness. So you can see that as it goes on and on, it gets more and more powerful. So at this point, here I've lost 2 attack, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have a 6 total attack, and then I have 3, 4, 5 defense. Also, some of these are worth victory points, and there's also special abilities, but they're only on the top one. So this one's +4 attack against undead because it's of holiness. So as the game goes by, you are building up this artifact. At the beginning of the game, you're going to pick a village card. There's a lot of village cards in this game, and you're only going to use one of them, but it's going to, for example, this one here gives you a multi-action. You can always spend 2 money to get an extra attack power if you need to. And then whenever you rest, another player will heal 1, and then you take money, or you can rest and take 2 money. So that's what that is, but maybe I want to do the Old Hunter's Keep. Has the same multi-action. This says after I defeat a monster, I take a money. After I take an artifact, I lose a money. I can rest to take 3 money, or rest to heal a wound. And at the end of the game, this is 1 victory point for every 3 monsters. And there's just so many here. Here I can take a wound for extra attacks, but at the end of the game, I lose a point for every 2 wounds. And there are many, many different things. Here's Hateville. I don't think I'm going to live there. The Gravekill Mounds, the Asylum Library, Dwarfborg. And the thing is, there's so many of these, and yet you are literally only going to use 1 of these per game. The way the game is going to work is players are going to take turns, and on your turn, one of the things you can do is rest, and you can take a rest action, which is anything that shows this rest symbol. So it's usually in the village here. Heal 1, but you might get artifacts and things that give you rest actions. Or you can journey. When you journey, you'll take any card from the track. If it's on these spots here, you need to pay that many crystals. You'll be collecting crystals as the game goes by. You'll pay that many to take it. So an artifact you'll put right in front of you. However, at the same time, there's going to be monsters that are going to show up. The game is set up so that the first several cards come out will be artifacts, but these monsters will come up and you can decide to fight monsters. You're going to want to fight monsters because they're victory points. As you collect monsters over the course of this game, they're also going to stack in front of you, and they might have immediate effects, like this one. When you beat a fairy, you have to give one to another player, or permanent effects. But this one here is going to make me go down 1 armor after I fight the wolf. I guess he stabs me or what have you. When you fight these guys, you need to do enough attack to take out their health, remembering that if you don't have enough attack, you can always pay money to get the extra attack, and then they'll do this much damage to you, which you will take in wounds, which are worth negative points at the end of the game. But if you have enough armor, you'll be able to block the damage and not take wounds. When you get 10 wounds, you'll get a wound card, which can give you victory points, yay, but also gives you a negative effect. I can't fight monsters with attack less than 3. I can't journey for the 5th or 6th card in the track. I can't use my abilities on my top card. I can't use non-rest abilities on the village. So these could be negative things. You don't have to play with this. This is sort of optional. Whenever players take a rest action, they have to discard a card on the path, which is going to be moving stuff down. There's also an optional thing you can play here where you can play with Overlords, big monsters that you can fight, and you try to defeat these things here, and they're going to start with these tokens on them, and you're going to be able to remove these tokens by doing various things. Like here's the Sacred Moose, which is a pretty cool thing, the Knoll Warlord, and there are various evil, nasty guys, Zavris, the puppeteer. And again, this is a little bit tougher of a game because these guys are out there, but it gives you another action where you can kind of challenge the Overlord. And you can make the Overlord harder. You can, there's a pile of variants in the game. In fact, let me show you here. There's a bunch of pages in the rule book where you can play a fast invasion, where you play with fewer cards in the deck. Super fast, even less cards. Put the dragons. There's big monster dragons in the decks. There's one in each deck. You can put those in the bottom of the deck. The Overlords I already mentioned. You can play with hard death mode, reinforcement mode. The wound deck is kind of a thing. So there's a lot of options. But when the deck completely runs out, at that point players are going to add up points, losing points for their wounds. And whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Now, I like that they added here all these dividers and stuff, but it's still, even with the 4 decks that I take out to show you this, there still is a lot of empty space in here. Now, here's the thing. The card quality of this game is really, really well done. The art is fantastic. They're nice cards. The symbology is really easy to see. I really like everything about this. It's just great. Here's one of the big dragon creatures I was talking about, the Mecha Dragon. It's fantastic. But the card quality of the villages, it's like they put linen finish on top of linen finish. You can see the cards are bent. They don't fit together. They're all like different sizes. I mean, it's the artwork is fine, and again, the symbology is not too. And I really like the artwork, but it's like way over finished. Then the tokens are fine, but this being with how big this box is, why is this not a board? It just seemed like having it as a piece of paper. So kind of the stuff's all over the place. I like that they give you these, which, to help card, shows you how to play, tells you all the actions. I like the attack and defense, but again, they're just over. I know this is weird for me to complain that stuff has too much linen finish on it, but that's really the case here. So there you have it. That's Enchanters. Now, if there's one thing I learned about Enchanters is it scales fairly well for me. 2 to 4 players. I think I like it best with 2, but it works well with all the numbers. But I really highly encourage you to play with the fast mode. Take out 5 cards per player from each set. Although I would, instead of randomly taking them out, I would take out like maybe 2 monsters and 3 of the piece of equipment and make sure you don't take out any duplicates. That's what I would do, just so it's more fun that way. Honestly, I think the game would be really fun if you just mixed up all the cards in the whole deck and just play with everything mixed and just drew a certain number of cards. Because you would, obviously mixing up so you have enough artifacts and enough other stuff, but mixing this stuff together is fun. It's fun to have a Warhammer of poison and a sickle of holiness. That sort of thing is neat. And the building the artifact is both fun because it's fun to read the phrase that it builds, and it's just neat to see your weapon and your artifact get better and better and better as time goes by. I really like that part of the game. The game also plays fairly quick, but the reason I tell you to take 5 cards out per deck is because if otherwise it starts dragging on, it's like, this game feels a little bit too long. So when I play the game, I always play with the variant, taking 5 cards out of each deck. I don't play this super fast. That seems enough. You're taking out, in a 4-player game, 20 cards, which is 20 turns, and that seems reasonable. I also play where the dragons get shuffled in the bottom, because it's not fun if a dragon comes up and then no one can defeat it. You know, it's fun to see the dragons get defeated and such. I like it. Like I said, the production quality is a little bit all over the place, but I like that there's so many choices. I want to say there's like 15 different decks, and you use, in a 4-player game, 4 different. That's a humongous amount of combinations. It's silly fun. And then the villages, there's really too many villages in here. The Overlords are also, they add more. There's so much content in here, and yet the game plays so simply and easily. So part of it is the theme. I like the theme. I will say that when I played this with other people, it's always been split. Half the people I play it with are like, yeah, it's okay. Or, I didn't think it was that great. While the other half enjoy it as much as I did. But it certainly is not a game for everyone. But it is one that I like a lot. I'm glad to have this nicer, bigger version. I would love to see even more decks, or maybe a way just to mix everything together. But that's Enchanters Overlords. Definitely one. If you've not heard of it, it's a lot of fun. Dice Tower Judgment approved.